Have you ever just told yourself, nope, I'm not a math person, or that you could never, ever learn a new language? Well, what if I told you the problem isn't your brain and it's definitely not the subject? Today, we're going to unlock your brain's hidden learning powers, and it's all thanks to the incredible work of Barbara Oakley. You know, this quote from Barbara Oakley herself, it really gets to the heart of a huge problem. We're always told to follow your passion. But what happens when that advice actually puts you in a box? When it limits your choices and convinces you that you just can't do the very things you find difficult? Just let that sink in for a second. That one subject you've always dreaded could actually be the key to a future you never even imagined. And look, this isn't about forcing yourself to like everything. It's about realizing you have the power to master anything. So where does this all come from? Well, it starts with the author herself, Barbara Oakley. For years, she was absolutely convinced she was terrible at math. So naturally, she avoided it like the plague. But later in life, she decided to face that fear head-on and ended up getting a degree in computer science, a field that, requires a ton of math. And right there, that's the big aha moment. The barrier wasn't the math itself. It was that she, and let's be honest, most of us, was never really taught the actual skill of learning. Once you understand how your brain is actually designed to work, you can give it the right tools to conquer any subject you choose. Okay, so how does this actually work inside our heads? Well, it turns out our brains have two totally different modes of thinking, and learning how to switch between them, that's the secret to becoming a way more effective learner. First up, we've got the focused mode. This is your brain on high alert. It's when you're concentrating really hard on something you're familiar with, like solving a specific kind of problem. Imagine a pinball machine, where the bumpers are all packed tightly together. Your thought, that's the pinball, just bounces around a well-worn path, making the connections you already have even stronger. But what happens when you get stuck? That's when you need to switch over to the diffuse mode. This is your brain's relaxed, big picture state. You know, the one that kicks in when you're taking a walk or in the shower or just kind of daydreaming. The pinball machine is now wide open, bumpers spread far apart. Your thoughts can just roam free, making these wild, unexpected connections between distant ideas. This is where those creative breakthroughs happen. And here's the key takeaway. You absolutely need both. Think of it like this. The focused mode lays the bricks, but the diffuse mode is the architect that shows you how to build the whole house. That's why techniques like the Pomodoro method are so powerful. That little 5-minute break isn't just about resting. It's a deliberate shift into diffuse mode, letting your brain make all those background connections while you go grab a coffee. All right, let's get into the biology of this because it's absolutely fascinating. When you learn something, your brain is physically changing. Seriously, this isn't some abstract idea. You are literally building new structures inside your skull. There's a famous saying in neuroscience, and it's famous for a good reason. Every single time you practice a skill or recall a fact, your brain cells, these things called neurons, are sending signals to each other. And the more they talk, the stronger and faster that connection becomes. You're literally forging a brain link. This incredible ability for your brain to rewire itself is called neuroplasticity. And what it means is that your brain isn't fixed in stone. You can build new pathways and strengthen old ones at any age. It's the scientific proof that you can change, you can learn, and you can get better. Now, to make this even clearer, the book uses this brilliant metaphor for our two main memory systems, a school bag and a locker. So, your working memory is like that small school bag you carry around. The book pictures this attention octopus inside your head that can only hold a few ideas at once with its tentacles. Try to give it too much, and stuff just starts getting dropped. But your long-term memory, that's like a gigantic storage locker. It can hold a nearly infinite amount of information, but you have to go visit it often and practice finding things, or they'll get lost way in the back. So we've got the temporary bag and the giant storage locker. What's really cool is that we can get way, way better at moving information from the bag into that locker for good. And to learn how, we're going to look at the techniques of a U.S. memory champion. Get this. Nelson Dellis wasn't born with a photographic memory. He trained it. This is a guy who can memorize the order of multiple decks of cards. And his core technique? It's something anybody can use. His process is just brilliant. First, you focus. You have to tell your attention octopus exactly what to grab. Second, you practice. Do it often, even with small stuff. Third, you make a ridiculous picture out of it. Our brains love visuals. Like, to remember the French word for grapefruit, pamplemousse. You could picture a giant moose pumping up a grapefruit, a pamplemousse. I know it's silly, but the weirder, the better. Fourth, you store it by connecting that crazy image to something you already know. And finally, and this might be the most important stuff of all, you have to actively recall it. Force your brain to pull that info out of the locker without peeking at your notes. Okay, this brings us to what might be the most critical part of this entire journey. You can understand all the theory in the world, but none of it matters one bit unless you actually put it into practice. Learning is not a passive activity. It's not a spectator sport. I mean, think about it. You can watch 1,000 hours of a concert pianist, but that's not going to teach your fingers how to play the piano. Rereading a chapter or highlighting a textbook, it feels productive, right? But it's mostly passive. It doesn't do much to build those strong neural links we were talking about. Real learning is active. So how do we actually do it? First, active recall. That's the struggle of trying to remember something without looking, closing the book and writing down everything you know. That effort is what forges memory. Second, deliberate practice. Stop just running through the problems you've already mastered. Spend your energy on the parts that are actually hard for you. And third, try interleaving. Instead of doing 20 problems of the exact same type, mix them all up. This forces your brain to learn which tool to use, not just how to use one tool over and over again. You know, ultimately the goal here is to become a scientist of your own learning. You get to be the expert on you. Start experimenting. Notice when you learn best, test out different strategies, and see what works for you and what doesn't. You are in control of this whole process. So I'll leave you with that question. This is about so much more than just what you learn in a classroom. This is about picking up that instrument, that new language, that coding skill you've always wanted to try. The tools are yours now. The only real question is, what will you become a scientist of?